Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest issue of Comic Book Gentlemen, the podcast where we use our decades of being giant nerds to discuss the most divisive issues in the fandom. I'm your host, Greg, joined by my constant co-host, Dave. How's it going, Dave?
There's so much going on.
There's so much going on. We are officially in Deadpool and Wolverine season, as you can see from the podcast title. So we are going to be diving into not only our thoughts on Deadpool movies in general, dive full on into Deadpool Wolverine. Plus, we're going to throw in some San Diego Comic-Con Hall H because we have to, because some crazy shit happened.
Yep.
So 100% spoilers ahead. If you're not caught up, one, I can't believe you haven't seen this movie. Like, go see this movie before you listen to this podcast.
Yeah, it's been open like 5 days.
Yeah, exactly. You have to see this movie. And then two, I don't know how it's possible to avoid any of the things that came out of Comic-Con. Like, it was everywhere. So, spoiler warning, we're going in there. But as Deadpool and Wolverine would say, let's fucking go. Let's do this. So, first off, what are your thoughts of Deadpool 1 and 2? Where do you stand Deadpool 1 and 2 before we get into the third?
I really enjoyed both. I thought that I honestly thought Deadpool 2 was better than Deadpool 1. Like, it was one of those ones that's like, hey, we established and then we built off of it. So my going into this one, my favorite was Deadpool 2. But I love both the movies. I thought they established the character well. I thought Ryan Reynolds knocked it out of the park with his rendition of, it's almost like Deadpool is Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. At this point, if you read the comic, you hear his voice.
You hear his voice. I enjoyed both of them. Like the first one, you could tell was like more of a like we're not sure. They got the budget for the movie. They put it together. They made jokes about that in the movie, how they could only afford a certain amount of X-Men, stuff like that. And then they get into the second one, and I felt like the second one really ramped up. Bringing in Cable was awesome. I know some people said he didn't test very well, like people didn't really like him, but I'm like, what are you talking about? I thought he was amazing. So yeah, I liked both of them, and seeing as they just managed to up it, 2 over 1. I was expecting, okay, you got Hugh Jackman, okay.
Yeah.
Things should be big.
Yeah, I was very surprised. A lot of the people I talked to, plus a lot of the pundits I listen to on other podcasts and other shows, all say they like 1 more than 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love 2. Like, I thought it was great. Awesome. Did you rewatch them before you went to go see Deadpool and Wolverine?
I had watched them
recently,
like within the last 5 months.
Yeah, I rewatched them and Logan before this movie. I mean, Logan doesn't really fit into this tonal wise.
It does.
It does, but it doesn't. I mean, the intro,
for
the
first 5 minutes.
Yeah, which we'll get into. But I just wanted to get back into the flow of things. And I still both are completely solid.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm always going to lean more towards comedy, so they're just laugh out loud, hilarious. And I like number 2 more because, like you said, it kind of expanded the cast, expanded more of the jokes, expanded the story, and all that stuff. And so, I was excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's see what happens. So now, establishing that, we start hearing rumors about Deadpool and Wolverine. They finally get Hugh Jackman back.
Yeah.
What does this mean when it comes to Logan? Because obviously Logan ended with him dying.
Lots of questions.
Set photos start coming out. How many trailers did you watch going into it?
I watched, I would say a fair share of them, because what I did notice with the trailers that I did see was the teaser trailer was just a teaser trailer. But the trailers themselves really were just on repeat. It was the same stuff you were seeing with maybe a smidge of something else that really didn't give you too much. So I didn't mind what they did put out as a trailer. I didn't feel like it really spoiled the experience at all.
Okay. What was your expectations then going in? Because again, listening to other podcasts, listening to that, people were like, this is going to save the MCU. This is going to completely revolutionize everything.
So I guess there's two frames of thought. Like, I was looking forward to the Deadpool Wolverine movie just on a whole for itself, because I was like, oh, I love the first 2. The third one's going to be great. They got Hugh Jackman back, who is the best Wolverine. I was very, very excited for the movie itself. I think I fell a little bit for that exact thing, the little bit of overhype that you were hearing about how this was going to do this for the MCU and blah, 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 blah. It was going to change things. It was going to get everything course corrected. It was going to do all this stuff. And at the end of the day, I think I let that affect my thoughts going in.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny that we're both very much on the same page for everything so far. So, let's talk about the movie.
Okay.
should we do like just overall thoughts and then go to like highlights
Sure.
and stuff, or
Yeah,
should we go
sure.
like scene by scene? I don't know. Overall thoughts. What's your out of 10? How does it rank? Type of thing.
See, this was the thing. I came out of the movie, and you know, my wife and a couple friends we went with, and they were like, you know, like, oh, you know, I really liked it. It was really funny. You know, how did you? And I was like, I don't know. Like I left the theater going, my lizard brain knows I was entertained.
Yeah.
You know, and I laughed a lot.
Yeah.
But I didn't know where I was sitting. And I think that came back to the, like, if I just went in expecting a Deadpool Wolverine movie, I think I would have been able to answer that question quicker.
Yeah.
Because I was expecting all this other stuff that people were hyping up and, you know, and sharing around. I kind of, it kind of dampened my experience, I would say. Like, I really enjoyed the movie. I laughed a lot. It was action packed. It was a lot of what I was hoping for. But there was also that little part of me that was like, where's the MCU stuff? Like, where is this big course corrector, this thing? And I personally felt like that didn't happen.
No. Again, it's crazy we're like on the exact same page for this. I definitely felt that very much like the first day coming out of the movie and like the first day afterwards of like, you know, it was really good, but like it wasn't, you know, a Marvel Jesus, as Deadpool would say, right? But then if you start, like you're saying, taking it as one just by itself, as like a standalone movie, and then two, as a send-off to the Fox universe, which is what it kind of ended up becoming.
Yes.
It was amazing. Like, the more I think about this movie, the more I love it, and I'm honestly like probably gonna go see it again in theaters. I'm like, because I'm like that was because again I think it, like I always
it was worth seeing in theaters.
It's 100% worth seeing in theaters. Like again, if you haven't seen it and you listen to this, go see it in theaters. It's amazing. But like I think for me, what it really came down to, like, and this, I do this all the time with movies of like expectations versus reality. Like I always. Sometimes with some movies, I just build them up so much in my head that when you actually go see it, it can't live up to that impossible level of stuff. And I feel like maybe that's the problem with most MCU movies post Endgame, is like you're expecting Endgame every time, and it's like, okay, guys, it's not Endgame. Like, this is just, you know, Shang-Chi or something like that, right? So, but one thing that really resonated with me, again, another podcast I listened to said, like, it's way more reminiscent of Spider-Man No Way Home in the sense of, like, it's a send-off to the Sony. It's a send-off to Fox. And if you take it as that, it's like, okay, this is actually amazing. Like, the fact that they were able to convince some of the people they got back to come back is like, how the fuck did they pull this off? And the fact, I mean, the biggest issue with No Way Home was the fact that it got spoiled that the two Spider-Men were coming back. The fact that some of these people I had no idea were in this movie is insane. Yeah. Like, how did they hide that? That's insane. So I again, initial thoughts were like, it wasn't as good as it could be. Thinking about it, it just gets better and better in my head every day.
Yeah, like I said, when I think of it from that aspect, like a lot of the stuff that I did see, you know, or like the jokes, I kept thinking about the jokes, and I was like, it seemed really jokey, and some of the jokes I felt were, you know, like almost overly harsh. Like there was like one comment where Deadpool said to Wolverine, like, yeah, you know, like, I think they were talking to Nice Pool. He mentioned something about Wolverine, and he said, yeah, he kind of let himself go since the divorce. Yeah. You know, like I was like, oh, you know, but I mean, Hugh Jackman obviously signed off on it. Yeah. But the amount of shots that they took at the MCU's failure over the last few years I was like, wow.
They let them get away with a lot. Yes. I was surprised. Which, I mean, if they hadn't been able to, people would have been like, what the fuck? So,
well, I was expecting the same level as like 1 and 2 as far as the jokes and the just the crudeness of some of it. But they took it to, it was like it was like Disney said, like, yeah, okay, we're okay with you making an R-rated movie, and they were like, we're gonna take it to the ceiling of R-rated movies. Like, they were saying stuff in there that I was just like, wow, Disney signed off on this.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, when you're looking at it and you're looking at the results of the last, you know,
4 years,
4 years or so, and then you're looking at Deadpool, it's like, you know, you're going to make money off of it. You know, you got Hugh Jackman coming back, so now it's even bigger. Yeah. You know, two of the most popular people from you know, now the MCU, because they're in the MCU, but it just, I was really shocked at how many shots at Disney, how many shots at Feige,
Yeah.
how many shots at like just everything.
Everything.
And even personal stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, like, there was a couple times there where, like, well, just coming out of the movie, I was just like, it was funny and I laughed, but then a part of me was just like, wow.
They went in. I don't know. Yeah. I loved it. I thought
it was great.
And like, oh, could you imagine the funniest thing? I mean, there was a very viral video that went on Twitter recently of apparently this like openly Christian couple saying like, we only got 5 minutes through that movie and we had to leave. What the fuck was that? Or obviously they didn't say that because they were very much like, oh, it was so vulgar. And it's like. You've never seen any other Deadpool movie? What are you talking about? Like, all I can think about is, like, could you imagine not being a fan of comic book movies for the past 20 years and going into this movie blind? You would get none of the jokes.
I wish I was in the theater with them.
It would have been hilarious,
right? Like, I just... No, you knew what you were expecting. Yeah. I definitely feel like, action-wise, they dialed it up.
Yeah.
A lot of almost, like, Zack Snyder-ish slow-motion stuff. Yeah, maybe they let him in, just film a couple scenes for them. But it was like the action was up, the humor and the vulgarness of the humor was definitely up. Which again, it was like number 1, and then you get number 2, and it's stacked up even higher. Now number 3 is even worse. So I was very happy from that aspect. Like I said, I was very entertained.
Yep.
It was just coming out of the movie, I was like, I kind of felt like I was expecting this big thing to happen that didn't happen. So then I felt like it was kind of like, oh, they went and Disney-fied Deadpool, because it just didn't end up happening.
I don't know. Once I got over that, I was totally fine with it. I was like, whatever. Fuck, like the MCU's whatever it is right now. Yep. We'll get into that when we talk about San Diego Comic-Con. But okay, let's break it down a little bit. How did you feel about them handling the multiverse? Because obviously a lot of the things they dealt with was very much nods to comic book history. Like when he was hopping through the dimensions trying to find a Wolverine.
It's probably one of the funniest
things
ever.
When Patches showed up, I was like, I was the only guy in the audience, but I was like, holy shit, it's Patches. And everyone was like, what the fuck's wrong with you, man?
It was pretty much every one of those scenes. I was like, they showed up and there's the scene where the city's a little wrecked and whatnot, and he's going into the alley, and you can see Wolverine leaning up against the thing, and the minute I saw him drop his hands and he had no hand, and I was like, oh my god, this is Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And I had to, I'm constantly leaning over to my wife and I'm like, this is Age of Apocalypse. Oh, that's Patch.
Yeah.
Oh, this is when he's going to fight the Hulk.
Yeah.
Just like going and going and going. That was great, because I felt like it wasn't your cheesy, forced cameo. It was like here's an homage to the Wolverine, universe of everything that's ever happened to Wolverine in like 10 minutes, and it was great. I loved that.
So did you not like the Cavill?
The Cavill was.
That was so
unfortunately
funny.
That was the one thing that had spoiled for me.
Really? I
didn't
know.
I'd heard about that. Unfortunately, when I was reading through an article, it was supposed to be spoiler free, but obviously wasn't. So I was expecting it, and I was just like, you know what? I was sitting there going like, if they can't get him, if they can't get Hugh to come back and play, or if, at some point he's got to hang it up.
He's there till he's 90.
Until he's 90, according. But I mean, if they ever did, it's like, I wasn't offended by the Calverine.
He was pretty great. The only issue being he's probably too tall against Ryan Reynolds or whatever. But so like how do you feel like them handling the multiverse? Did you enjoy it? Are you still like, it's just cheesy when they do it? Are you done with multiverse? How are you feeling?
In this movie, it didn't bother me. Like they used it to obviously pull in Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, set up kind of a different dynamic for him. I didn't mind that at all. The hopping around was just great. Because I was just like I was seeing all these things, and I was like, a lot of them were images from comics that I've read. And like, for instance, when he was posted up to the X in that big sea of skulls, and I was just like, oh, that was like when the Reavers got a hold of him.
Yeah.
So it was really, I thought, well done, because it wasn't overdone. Mm-hmm. And then the other people they brought in from other universes was a nice touch as well to a degree, like you said, was that kind of farewell to the Fox.
Yeah.
And in one case, a movie that never got made. So that was good. And the way they handled it, it was like very jokey, and like they were taking shots, but at the same time also paying respect to it.
Yeah.
So it was good.
It was great.
I didn't have any problem with the multiverse stuff that they did.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue I think most people have with the multiverse aspect of the MCU since Endgame again has been just like, have they used it as well as they could have? But again, I think Deadpool Wolverine is definitely the best use of it. Again, No Way Home, the only alternate universe stuff that was good was getting the Sony people involved, so that was the only benefit of. And then Doctor Strange Universe of Madness was what it was, type of thing. And again,
apparently the multiverse extends to 2 universes.
Yeah. Sony and Fox.
The multiverse.
Yeah. But no, I thought I'm still curious to see what they do with the multiverse. Obviously with Deadpool it shows like you can do some crazy shit with it. Yeah. I don't think every MCU movie is gonna be like that, but like it's still potential of, hey, we could, and like you said, like all the homages to the comic books is why it works the best, is when you're able to pull out those type of guys.
It was, I mean, when it was going on in the comic books, like when they were dealing with it with the like the Illuminati, Avengers and whatnot, when they were dealing with that stuff, then it was kept pretty tight. Like there was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then when they started to get towards the kind of the climax of the storyline and where they were going to move into Secret Wars, then it was like they just took the rails off and just there was just all kinds of multiverse weird stuff that was going on, which was good. And I feel like without establishing it, that they just kind of tried to take the rails off but not, and it just didn't land. Like I know the multiverse movie or the Doctor Strange movie didn't land with me at all. And I think the Spider-Man one was good, but I felt like they really leaned too much into the nostalgia side of it, where I know some people were saying they did the same thing with Deadpool, and I'm like, no, but they didn't, because like the Spider-Man ones, a lot of those characters, the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, like they were beloved characters because they did a really good job for its time. They did a really good job with those characters. Green Goblin suit aside,
let it go.
But with this one, it was just like yes, they had these people there, but it was kind of like just a side thing. Yeah. It wasn't the purpose of the movie.
I mean, the purpose of the movie was he's trying to save his universe, so he had to go get a Wolverine. So it was kind of integral to the storyline.
The multiverse part was, but the characters that they brought in weren't central to the actual story. Like you could have brought any of the characters in. Like you could have brought in the guy that played Fantastic or Mr. Fantastic and Doctor Doom and whoever you wanted, and it would have been the same because it was still just focused on Deadpool and Wolverine, which was great.
Before we get into more details about the movie, I have to shout out the soundtrack. I mean, obviously it was, again, nostalgia bait of having a lot of old early 2000s songs and 80s. I mean, it had Madonna in there too, but man, what an insane soundtrack.
Yeah, great soundtrack. And I would say what made it a good soundtrack was the good songs and nostalgic songs, but the timing of where they put them was 100%. Just like...
Like Avril Lavigne in the car when they're sad, doing the thing, and like, oh, it was so funny. I love that soundtrack. Like I was trying to tell my wife, like, I know you're not gonna watch this movie, just listen to the soundtrack. It's so good.
Yeah,
like,
the soundtrack was really good.
So shout out to that. Okay, let's get into some more specifics in the movie. So like what ended up happening with this, which I was very surprised by, was it ended up being pretty much a swan song to the Fox era of superhero movies. And the way they did it, it wasn't just like, again, like you're saying, Spider-Man, where it's like, hey, here's just these people. Like, it really went into like some obscure ones of like the whole Gambit situation. I laughed so hard.
Oh, yeah.
Like, not only because it's funny, but the fact that they put him in the fucking costume that looks so bad.
It was that one was again just it was just a surprise because again there was no movie.
No.
And he never was in the suit. He never played the character. Yeah. It was always just this rumor that this was something that was going to happen that didn't end up happening. And then to see that, it was just like, oh, wow.
And the accent?
Oh, accent was beautiful. I thoroughly enjoyed that for various reasons. Like, good that he got the shot to play the character. And, in some of the fight scenes, he had some pretty cool stuff he did. But at the same time, it was like, we're taking a shot at this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
And then the Chris Evans... did you know it was going to be Human Torch? Okay,
I knew just by the way he was acting.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "Oh, I didn't know Captain America was going to be in this." And I was like, "It's not Captain America."
It's not Captain America.
And she's like, "What do you mean? Who is it?" And I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. And then right before he revealed who he was, she's like, "Oh my God, it's not the Human Torch, is it?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
The one thing that confused me about it though was when he gets his flame taken by Pyro. It looks like he died. But then he suddenly
fell.
but he snaps his spine in half. But then 5 seconds later he's just chatting with them in the prison ball. I was like, wait, what happened? Type of thing. But it was so which is fair. It was so funny. And then I marked out when Blade came out.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got him to come back.
Yeah.
Like, how?
Yeah.
Like. And also the fact that
the only thing that I can think of is like, does that mean there's a Ryan Reynolds?
Yes.
That part of that, the vampire crew. Is there a Ryan Reynolds running around somewhere that's not Deadpool?
Yeah.
But he was great to see, especially the shot that he took at saying there's only ever going to be one Blade.
Yeah, that was so funny.
It was like, I don't know if that was them saying, yeah, there's probably not going to be another Blade because
we can't get it off the ground.
You've heard of all the troubles they've had, or if it was just again another shot being taken at like, hey, you guys can't get your crap together, so we're going to take a shot at that. Either way, it worked for me.
And then Jennifer Gardner as Elektra was like a complete surprise. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, that one really caught me off guard, and I was just like, okay.
I'm glad she was there. Again, her standalone movie was terrible, but the fact that they brought her back.
So was the Daredevil movie. Sure.
Hey, there was good. Okay, we'll one day do a ranking of that one time.
But she did take a shot at Daredevil.
She did take a shot at Daredevil. Okay, the one thing I was sad about was when I saw it in the trailer that X-23 Daphne Keane was returning. I was super happy about that. Yeah. But then when I saw it in the movie, I was like, oh, I wish this would have been a surprise. Yes. But I feel like they almost had to reveal her as a red herring. Because then you go like, oh, okay, X-23, that's a huge reveal. That'll be the big reveal at some point. But then you would never expect Wesley Snipes and Jennifer Gardner and Channing Tatum, right? That's
you give a little bit, which would relatively make sense because of recent movies. Yeah. So that you're covering up all the other stuff underneath. Because there was also a lot of cameos from old villains from old X-Men movies and whatnot. So it was jam-packed. If you knew what you were looking for, you watched those back in the day several times because they were, amazing for the time. You noticed a lot of stuff going on. The Paul Rudd shot was amazing.
Oh, that was so funny. Dude, it was so funny. I love this movie. I'm going back to watch it for sure. Yeah. There's just so much like homage to the old movies and stuff like that. How'd you feel about Cassandra Nova? A very interesting villain pick, especially for a Wolverine and Deadpool movie.
I think the thing that I was happy because I was like, hey, really cool villain to bring in. How they utilized her. Okay, interesting, but I didn't feel like they really kind of built that up. Like they just kind of said like, oh yeah, she was really dangerous, so they put her here, and that was it. Like there was no flashback to them doing anything to her or anything like that. Where I thought Deadpool 1 and 2 did a better job of establishing their villains, like giving them a little more to them than just like, hey, I'm here and I'm bad.
Yep.
They got a lot of the power stuff. Like I remember some of the stuff from the comic books that she's running her fingers through their heads. Yeah. And it was. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah.
I just wish there would have been more of her and more of her established. That's all.
I mean, I guess there's technically two villains because you had the guy from the TVA.
Yeah.
It almost felt like
it
almost felt like to me they had an idea for Deadpool 3 to bring him into the MCU, but then when Wolverine Hugh Jackman signed on is when I felt like they almost combined two movies into one.
Possibly.
Or like they severely changed one movie. What else was a highlight? What do you think of all the action scenes and like all that stuff?
The action scenes were amazing. Like, I mean, like the opening credits scene, which
God.
they always do such a fantastic job of, was amazingly funny.
Yeah.
And like even my wife at one point was just like, "Oh, I didn't watch all of that because it was so over the top violent."
Yeah.
But it was just, it had its humor in it, and then it was some great action,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like just right through the whole movie, the whole action, the fight in the car,
Dude.
like you're fighting in a car.
Yeah.
But it was great. Like every action scene I didn't have a problem with.
I'm really glad they did 2 Wolverine versus Deadpool fights.
Yeah.
Because you had your initial one when they go into the, whatever you want to call it, negative zone or whatever it's called, of like, I'm so mad at you, let's go, as like an initial fight. But then like you said, they progressed and then fight in the car and have a really different type of action scene. Like both of them were great and for their own reasons. I'm glad they did 2, because I feel like most movies like this would have done 1.
Yeah.
Like again, Spider-Man, they only had the 1 action scene where it was all 3 Spider-Men working together, type of thing. Whereas this one, it was awesome. They got 2 action scenes plus so many more, right? Like it was really cool. What else was going on? How do you feel about this version of Wolverine? Kind of like a more depressed alcoholic, but yet he's also like the strongest Wolverine.
That's the difference.
Yeah, well, like they were trying to tout it as a difference.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
I mean, he was supposed to be. It was kind of like when I first understood what was going on. I thought maybe they were going to play back to Old Man Wolverine, like how that happened, and then it was just like, no, he just happened to not be there.
Yeah,
and basically everybody got decimated. So it was a little different that way. I didn't feel like I didn't pick up on the depressed part as much. I don't know if it was just the dialogue or the actor and whatnot, but he was definitely like, what I got from the vibe was like, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
Like, get away from me. This is dumb. Okay, we're gonna fight.
Yeah.
So that you learn your lesson. But to me, it was like it had to go that way. It was like the only kind of logic. Like, it made sense, but it was just kind of, okay, let's patch this together real quick so we can understand why he's here and how he's here. And that's it. I didn't pay too much attention to it because they didn't give it a lot of time. Mm-hmm. Other than like, I'm pissed off at the world because I failed.
Yeah.
And he said that several times. It really didn't get a lot of light as far as like what happened. You didn't see it.
Yeah.
You didn't feel it. I'm just mad about it.
I think I would have liked it more if he had been the one to kill the X-Men. I mean, to be fair, they were kind of playing... It would have been very repetitive of Logan, because they were kind of implying that in Logan, but then it ended up being Professor X.
Yeah.
Which is really cool twist on that.
Yeah.
But then I think pulling the Wolverine and saying he's the one that killed the X-Men, I think would have been fine, especially considering how some of the other plot points they were talking about was him being way more tough and violent and like a really good fighter. Like, they kind of like, especially when he was like crawling on the ground, like there's certain, and like, the scene when he kills all the Deadpools, like they say at one point before they do that, I'm the best Wolverine for killing, type of thing. So it's very interesting that they then went as like, this is the one Wolverine that wasn't there when they needed him most, as opposed to the Wolverine that killed the X-Men, type of thing. I mean, I thought maybe it's like one of those things of like, that's pushing the line too much of a Wolverine that's willing to kill the X-Men. We don't want that in the MCU. Is probably what happened, but
no, it worked, and it was one of those points that I was just willing to kind of gloss over and just go, oh, okay, that's how I got it. Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. What'd you think of the costume, specifically the helmet?
I thought the whole thing was awesome.
Okay.
I thought it was great. I was glad that they saved the actual mask for the end. It looked a little off CGI wise.
Yeah.
But still, it was the best one that I've seen.
Okay.
Like, the best one that I've seen thus far.
I definitely, the mask threw me off a lot. Is it CG? I thought it was practical.
I thought some of it must have been CGI.
We'll have to look that up.
It was. Yeah, maybe it was. It was just like, I mean, the part where he pulled it on was CGI, but the actual helmet itself could have been.
I thought it looked really dumb, and maybe it's just one of those things of like that's the type of costume that just won't work in real life.
Yeah.
But I feel like the horns, or whatever you want to call it, like the blowjob handles, are just the funniest joke. Why? I just don't understand why they were so wide out. I feel like they should have just been up and back as opposed to wide out. Like it just looked weird to me.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it worked. And it was great that it was like again at the end of the day it was right at the end where and even Deadpool recognized it. He was like, oh, you held off on the good stuff until and it's like, now we're gonna see some shit. And that was great.
And then speaking of the end, you had the crazy Deadpool versus Deadpool Wolverine fight. All the different Deadpools was so good. I can't believe they got Blake Lively to play Lady Pool and didn't show her face. Like, what?
They didn't show her face. And I had actually just watched a video on the stunt double that actually played, and she did a lot of the work for Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman and a whole bunch of other movies. Like, she's fantastic from the stuff that I saw. But yeah, like, I mean, it was in the credits, like, because I waited to see if it was, was it not? And it was, and it was like...
Well, they made the joke in the movie. It was Nice Pool that said the joke, actually. Of Lady Pool just had a baby, but she's still looking good. So maybe it was like that timing issue of like she couldn't be on. She'll do the voice, but she couldn't be on set because maybe she was pregnant or just had a baby at the time or something like that. But I was surprised they didn't like take off her mask. What would have been really funny though is if it was Ryan Reynolds in drag. I would have laughed so hard if it's like sexy Lady Pool, pull it off, it's just Ryan Reynolds. I would have laughed so hard.
No, it was the whole there was a Wrexham Deadpool in there as well.
The soccer team.
The soccer team. Like, it was
Kid
just,
pool, baby,
it was great.
pool.
And what I love about it is like there have been other comics that have taken the Corp idea, which is like the Green Lantern Corp, and tried to like do it seriously, like the Nova Corp and whatnot. And this is just a pure like, this is ridiculous and it's stupid. And there's a head flying around with a twirly copter.
Zombie pool.
Zombie pool, and it's just like. But it was so good.
Oh man, and like the Madonna, and then the one shot act. I mean, some of the CGI was a little bit rough. Like when he's jumping out of the bus, Wolverine it looks really weird. But like if you just take it as it is, it was so cool.
Yeah.
And then you had the amazing Hugh Jackman abs for the final finale scene, exploding Cassandra Nova type of thing.
I did have to say the shot at Liefeld.
With the feet.
Lifefield's, only feet or whatever that
called. Footwear or something like that. God, that was so funny. There's so many jokes. Like I have to go watch this movie again. Any other like specifics you want to shout out of highlights and stuff like that?
No, it was like I can't really pin down like any one action scene. I thought all the action scenes were fun. It was very violent, like over the top, but. There were no other moments that really stuck out for me. I think we covered most of them. Yeah. It was just like from a Deadpool Wolverine standpoint, I was like, that was great. The only thing that I was disappointed with, and this was the only thing, was like I wanted to see Cable.
Yeah!
Even if it was just a cameo.
They could have done such a funny joke. Oh. I mean, they did it in Deadpool 2 of like calling him Thanos. But like, could you imagine like a Cable Thanos talking to each other scene? Would have been so funny.
Like just something.
Who
It
didn't
would have been
like
great.
Deadpool 2? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Such a
I thought
good
it was
movie.
so great.
And the juxtaposition of serious Cable and ridiculous Deadpool was the best part.
Much better Juggernaut than anything that they put forward before.
Well, which is funny because they had the Juggernaut, and then he was such an integral part.
We got to take his helmet.
That was so funny. And then it didn't even matter.
If you think of Juggernaut from the comic books, he's huge. Yes. And that helmet is so ridiculous looking. And the fact that they had to like steal it and then put it on Cassandra Nova's head, which then just looked even more ridiculous.
So funny. And then they ended up taking it off anyway, so it didn't even matter. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It was so funny. So now, kind of the end of the movie,
I'm glad he wore the suit.
Oh, Wolverine?
Wolverine.
Yeah. I thought
that's been missing the entire time he's been playing Wolverine.
For sure. I thought the suit looked good. I just didn't like the helmet. That was the only thing
that's fair.
Which, have you seen X-Men 97 yet?
No.
Dave, you have so much time. Go on, come on. They make a joke about the costumes. I forgot to tell you this. In like the second last episode, they make a joke about it.
I really liked the when he made a reference like, "Oh, this is John Byrne, the old John Byrne Brown," and that suit looked pretty wicked too.
See, that looked better.
And the only thing I was disappointed with, not disappointed, but it was just like, oh, just give me a little more of that, because he flashes the claws and you can see the Hulk in the claws. And I was just like, oh, just give us a little taste, just a little taste of that fight. But it was still good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
So now at the end of the movie, you have I guess technically the story wasn't that he went to the main timeline. It's more like he can go to the main timeline if he wants to. I guess is kind of what ended up happening, because he saved his timeline.
Saved his timeline
with having Wolverine, but then they implied that he's now part of the main universe, but he's not, because technically he saved his own timeline. I just realized that.
Yeah.
As I'm saying this out loud.
So it seemed like he's not a part of the sacred timeline. Mm-hmm. That he's got his own timeline, but apparently he's got the ability to move back and forth. And I think that was like that. In a way, I guess that's kind of smart, because you can keep it separate in the sense of like, hey, we could just keep doing these R-rated things with him, and do what they're doing, and kind of keep it separate from the MCU. But if we need to pull them in for like Secret Wars or anything, then we can just pull them in. And I thought that works.
And I guess thinking about it too, you can now have multiple Wolverines, multiple Deadpools. Like if you wanted to recast Wolverine potentially before Secret Wars, or at Secret Wars kill off Hugh Jackman again and go to a new one, you could still have Hugh Jackman.
And Hugh Jackman.
Exactly, right? You can have them both. So I guess it kind of makes sense that way. But like, I mean, so apparently like the whole like why is Thor crying thing, apparently like that may be an actual thing that's going to come up again. So we'll see what happens. But another cool thing that they reestablished was X-23's back as well.
Yes.
Because the end scene, the whole Deadpool family is back together, including Wolverine and X-23.
Which I have to say, I know it's mostly because so much time has passed, but I saw her in that movie in Logan. Mm-hmm. And then my wife and I saw her in something else shortly after that, and we were like, oh, that's the same girl that was in Logan. Oh, okay. And then she was in His Dark Materials, and she was like, it's like I know time has passed, but it feels like decades have passed between movies and projects that she's done. Yeah. Because when she came back in this, she just looks so much older than Dark Materials, which I just finished watching. Yeah. Like a year ago. But she was fantastic. She looked great. She pulled she's still the character. And which is awesome. If like, I know they keep joking about like you're going to do this till you're 90, Hugh Jackman. I'd be totally fine with her being X-23 and Wolverine, because I started actually reading the Wolverine storyline where she's Wolverine type of thing from 2015, which is really good, right? So I'd be totally happy. I'm glad. Like, I mean, obviously it would have been even funnier if they brought in Wesley Snipes and Channing Tatum and stuff like that. But I'm glad at least they saved X-23. Like, for sure, bring her back in the future. Yes, please.
So how does this make you feel before we get into San Diego Comic-Con of it all? Mm-hmm. Like, did this revive MCU for you? Are you reignited with passion of like, we fixed it, let's go type of thing? Or what did the movie feel like when it comes to the MCU?
It was a Deadpool movie.
It was a Deadpool movie.
So MCU can slap their little stamp on it all they want and try to make it sound like it was theirs. It wasn't.
No.
This movie could have been done by Fox. Back when they had the rights, and it would have been just as awesome. Probably better, because it wouldn't have tied it into all this multiverse
and
stuff.
The TVA bullshit.
And TVA stuff. So I looked at it and I said like this, yes, this definitely got people excited to go back and see a MCU movie, and I say that in quotations. But to me, it was still a Deadpool movie. Like this didn't do anything as far as the MCU is concerned, because the first test for them will be the next movie they put out that's not Deadpool. Yeah. So they're not attaching themselves to that. That'll be the test. So whichever movie it is, I think it's Captain America coming out. That'll be the test to see if they've corrected course, and I'll get more into that when we talk about the Hall H stuff. Yeah.
To wrap it all up, I love this movie. I'm definitely going to see it again in theaters, maybe. Maybe, for sure, as soon as it comes out on Disney Plus or whatever, I'm watching that again. It was so
I'm willing to own it, which people don't do anymore.
So it's really good. It's really good. So and again, I definitely think you have to take yourself out of like, this is Marvel Jesus. Yeah. Again, if you take it as this is a Deadpool movie, which again, the sad part was you didn't have the Deadpool family a lot in the movie.
Yeah.
Dude, when Peter
Except for Peter.
Dude, Peter was so fucking funny.
Peter
Pool was so fucking funny, which, yeah, shout out to that. But, like, you didn't have Dopinder, you didn't have Vanessa that much, you didn't have
They
Yukio.
were basically in the beginning.
Yeah, which was sad. So I hope in Deadpool 4 they focus again
Except
more
for
on
two great scenes with his blind roommate.
Oh, ow. That was so good. So, yeah, they still have their moments. Which is really great. But anyways, I think if you take out the whole Marvel Jesus aspect of it, it's a great movie. It was a great send-off to Fox. I mean, it even had the, like, yearbook.
I loved the Marvel Jesus comment.
Yeah.
Because it was just, like, to me, it was just, like, we're not doing well.
No.
We know whatever you're doing over there is amazing, so you need
yeah.
to come and do it over here. And I felt like it was, like, just again another gut punch to Kevin Feige and MCU. Is just like, I'm coming in and this movie's gonna be great because I'm now Marvel Jesus.
You're my bitch now, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, now speaking of the future of MCU, of course the same weekend of Deadpool Wolverine was San Diego Comic-Con. And Marvel returns to Hall H, which I think it's been a couple years since they returned to Hall H type of thing.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start with this? Because there was a lot. Do you want to start with the big news?
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. Why not?
The big news out of this is Robert Downey Jr. is returning to the MCU, but not as Iron Man, as Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
What was your initial thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on this?
There were two potential storylines that I was thinking, like, were they trying to do, are they going to try and pull off some kind of like infamous Iron Man storyline kind of thing where Doctor Doom became Iron Man, like kind of the opposite, but they're flipping it around, or the actual kind of almost like a what if comic called Doomsday, which is what the name of one of their movies is. So, like, until I know what's going on, like, if they come out and they say like, he's Victor Von Doom, I'm like, okay, because I guess, because they've just established, I mean, they just had Chris Evans in a Deadpool movie playing the Human Torch, who he did play.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, okay, but to me it was like, if that's the case, if there's not a really well-crafted story here, it feels like very much a case of, like, break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Because you also went back to the Russo brothers.
Yep.
So there's two trains of thought here. Is you're going back to them. Hopefully there's something good. Hopefully this is done. And I'm reserving judgment until I know more about it. There's people just losing their minds about it. It's like until you know what the story is here, you gotta let it go. If it's not done well, I think it's a disservice to Iron Man as him as Iron Man, and I think it's a disservice to the character of Doom in allowing, you know, somebody else to come in and take those reins and do something with it, and that would signal to me that it was like, we're scared, so we brought back the most popular guy in the MCU to play the character. But again, until this resolves itself, till I know more, I'm excited because I like them. I'm excited about the Russo brothers because they did a good job. But I'm reserving judgment on what this means and how this is going to work until I actually have more information.
Man, we're synced up today. I don't know what happened, but like I'm very much the same thing.
I got a good night's sleep.
Yeah. I got a terrible night's sleep. We're syncing up. No, just kidding. Yeah. But like, I feel like you said, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
Like, the initial reaction, the reveal was amazing. That was so cool. But then you think about it a little hard and you're like, what does this mean? But then it's like, okay, in the end, Robert Downey Jr. is a billionaire. He just won an Oscar for Oppenheimer. He would only come back, I feel like, if they had a good pitch to him. Yeah. And they probably were like, we're also bringing back the Russos, so you know, type of thing, but yeah.
The money figure I heard was
insane.
Ridiculous. For both the Russo brothers and him. So,
which is hilarious.
So which would make sense, because I mean, you know, like, if I'm going to come back, like yes, even if you pitch a good story, there's still that chance that it doesn't land with the audience and everything else. So do I want to ruin the legacy that I've created? Yeah. Oh, cha-ching. Yes, now I do. And I think that the dollar figure just kind of pushed it over. It would just push it over the edge, which would make sense, because I mean, it's not like he probably needs it. It's do you want to ruin that legacy that you've already created?
And like you said, I think the biggest key point of all this though is that it's Doctor Doom. Like Doctor Doom is such an iconic character, and it's such a specific type of character too.
Yeah, Kang what?
Yeah, exactly. Kang, who gives a shit? Galactus, who gives a shit? It could have been any actor type of thing.
But it was just like all this build up for Kang. We all know what happened there, and it's just like instead of even addressing it in any way, shape, or form, they've just went like, "Whoa, hey, look at this Deadpool movie."
Yeah,
and then they're just gonna take off from there. Again, we'll see what happens. Like again, people like. I'm excited because he's an awesome actor. He's a very good actor. Mm-hmm. So that's the things people forget is like he's not just a good Iron Man actor. He is a great actor.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
You got a great actor to come in and play a very complex, great villain.
I know we're saying like let's let them cook and we'll see what happens. But if you had to choose evil Iron Man or he's just Doctor Doom, but they don't reveal the face. He's just like the voice. What would you prefer them do?
My thought was my thought or hope, I guess maybe if I'm spitballing something is that he's Tony Stark that somehow became Doctor Doom.
Okay.
And then somehow they phase him out of being Doctor Doom, and maybe he moves back to being like Iron Man.
Mm.
And then they bring in somebody else to actually play Doctor Doom.
Okay.
It seems like a feasible thing that they might do.
Yeah.
But if he's just Victor Von Doom, again, it depends on the writing and the story. Because this could get fumbled really badly. At the same time, it could be really good.
Yeah. I think I'd prefer if he was just the voice of Doctor Doom. I think if you did the whole he's an evil Iron Man, it would be so confusing to some people.
Oh, very much so.
Again, we're the weirdos that actually read comic books. There's like the huge wide of people that only watch the MCU when it comes to superhero stuff. So I feel like you get an average Joe on the street, I feel like that would confuse the shit out of them. It's like why did Tony Stark sacrifice himself and now he's evil? Type of thing.
No, but I mean, yeah, if they even have him play the character like physically play the character, his face is all messed up anyway.
That's true.
Like you wouldn't really know it's him. I mean, we all know it's him.
Yeah.
But yeah, like again, it just I'm more curious now. Like I'm more curious than I am excited about just like where are you going with this, because this could be really bad.
Yeah.
Or wow, well done.
Okay, so that's the doom of it all.
Yeah.
What are your other thoughts about some of the news that came out of San Diego Comic-Con? I mean, so the next big MCU movie, like you said, is Captain America: Brave New World. Mm-hmm. They revealed that Esposito is playing Sidewinder, who's from Hydra, which they were kind of building that up in not only Hawkeye but in a couple other Black Widow as well, of like the next. Oh, sorry, it was Falcon Winter Soldier with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Yeah. Like they're building up that side of the Marvel universe, which I feel like they should have been like they could have done this years ago, but type of thing. So like, how are you feeling about Brave New World? Initial thoughts?
I love the trailer.
Yeah.
Like I thought it looked good. Had that little shot of Red Hulk at the end, which was awesome. The action looked good. It made sense. I love the kind of parting shot to the mustache that he mentioned. Had to shave it or lose the election kind of thing. I was kind of surprised that like you had William Hurt, who did a great job and ended up passing away, that then you brought in an older actor to play him. But I mean, Harrison Ford in the MCU, okay, this is gonna be interesting.
Well, apparently William Hurt and Harrison Ford are best friends outside of movies, and so that apparently it was very much I'm gonna do this for my friend. I'm gonna finish his story type of thing.
It's I was excited. Like the trailer got me excited, and because I think a part of it was because they got away from. Like, I felt Civil War was too big for a Captain America movie. And the first one was just, like, your typical origin story thing. So I really loved Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. And this had a very Winter Soldier feel to it. Plus, we're going to add a Red Hulk. Yeah. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah, optimistic is a good word for it. I'm more excited for Thunderbolts, only because I think Thunderbolts is an insane cast. Like Florence Pugh, Red Guardian, Bucky, like the people who they have on this movie, Ghost, like I'm very curious to see that, and I feel like no matter what story they try to do with this, I feel like the cast is good enough to make like I mean that I felt like the same way with that with Black Widow movie of like the story was just meh, but the cast was so good that it like elevated it. I feel like the same thing with Thunderbolts. We don't know what the story is for Thunderbolts yet, but I really feel like the cast itself is going to elevate it so much, right?
See, and this is, I mean, you know, there as you go down the line is like I couldn't really say any of them were bad guys. Like your true like
they were
I'm
anti-heroes.
evil bad guys. They're either anti-heroes or they're misunderstood people that just kind of cast as bad guys because that's just what happened.
Like Ghost, come on, she's not.
Like,
she's not a bad guy.
And that's the only part of the Thunderbolts that I wish they would have harkened back to the original Thunderbolts comic of hey, here's this new group of superheroes that have come in. Oh, they're all actually not former, but they are villains pretending to be. And then as the comic went on, they all started to go like, hey, actually, I kind of like doing the right thing. Whereas this just seems to be a bunch of like anti-hero bad guys because of a bad situation, characters that were just kind of lumped together. Great cast. Characters are all interesting, I think.
It has nothing to do with Thunderbolts in the movie. It's way more Suicide Squad-y, you know, type of thing. But
and I mean, again, I don't know much about it other than like who's in it. So we'll see.
Speaking of great casts, Fantastic Four. You're even wearing a Fantastic Four shirt right now.
Yes,
I'm not the biggest Fantastic Four fan. I like the Thing. I like Human Torch. You're wearing a shirt.
I like them.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as a fan, I don't think anybody's been like a super fan of Fantastic Four since like John Byrne was doing it. So hopefully they do this right.
Yeah. Again, I trust that cast. Like, have you seen The Bear?
Yes.
Dude, that guy can act the shit out of it. And the fact that it's going to be The Thing, where it's a tragic character and all you see is his eyes. Like, he if you just see that guy's eyes, you know he's going to be the greatest actor of all time. Joseph Quinn is Human Torch. Pedro Pascal. I think her name's Jessica Kirby. I could be wrong, but like amazing actors again. Again,
it's a good cast. Again, I was still holding out hope that we would have got John Krasinski's as
Mr. Fantastic
and Emily Blunt come and play. You know, that was just a like, hey, I kind of like that idea, but the casting they did here was very interesting.
Yes. So again, but that one just started filming, so it's going to be a couple of years before we see it. So we'll see what happens. But then it leads into the next two events.
I do like how they're setting it up, where they're in basically at this point they're in like an alternate, you know, another universe. And this universe it was supposed to be based in some like the 60s during a space race. So it's like they went, oh god, you know what, the Fantastic Four doesn't really work if you just bring it in wholesale. We're gonna start back at the beginning. And I think that's a good. I thought that was a good idea. Like to say, hey, the comic started in the 60s easily. So why don't we start this in the 60s, and then obviously somehow they're going to make their way over or whatever.
Yeah, it can do a Captain America First Avenger type of thing.
Exactly.
Of like, hey, it's kind of like a prequel of the MCU, which we can then bleed into the present day. MCU,
without saying like, oh yeah, by the way, in the 60s there were these other superheroes that everybody just forgot about for 20 years. You know, like
I think that's cool. So we'll see what happens. Then they announced, obviously they had previous plans for the next two Avengers movie. And then now they've announced again that one, no more Kang, it's Doom now. Two, Russo brothers are back, helming both of them. And then now it's Doomsday and Secret Wars. I think it was previously Secret Wars before, but now Secret Wars again.
Yeah, it was Kang Dynasty.
Kang Dynasty instead of Doomsday. So again, how are you feeling about those? Anything stand out?
Again, they're so far out, and you don't know a lot about it. I mean, the switch over to Doom, obviously, we're probably going to see a lot of cameos of Doom or some hints towards Doom in the next gazillion movies.
Yeah, especially Fantastic Four.
Yeah, because they have to start building that up with Doomsday coming out
2026.
In 2026. So that's not a lot of time. Again, don't know much about it. So like I don't know what the story is or the loose idea behind it. We don't know. We don't even know who the Avengers team is going to be.
Yeah.
Like I mean, they could turn around and surprise everybody and be like, yeah, guess what? We brought back like 4 of the other original Avengers. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what else they're doing. So it's hard to like, okay, it's Doom. Okay, great. I wish they would have saved Doom as a Fantastic Four villain because that's who he is.
Yep.
But It is what it is.
But at the same time, I mean, when we did our Marvel crossover event, one of our favorite ones was Secret Wars because Doom was so amazing in it. So he can be a
Doom's always messed
galactic.
up in Secret Wars,
and apparently in Blood Hunt,
he's loves taking the Beyonders powers. That guy.
Yeah. Original Secret Wars, new Secret Wars, Blood Hunt. He's now fucking things up, everything.
Exactly.
So I think my biggest hesitancy is obviously you had the last 4 years was hit and miss for the MCU, especially on the Disney Plus side of it, the TV shows. I hope they give some of those characters and actors their flowers of because some of them were amazing. I really hope they bring them back of obviously Moon Knight. I know he's not really a galactic type of guy, but come on, bring in Moon Knight.
He's been on the Avengers.
Exactly, he's been on the Avengers. Same with Hawkeye, but the girl, Haley Steinfeld version of it. Please bring her back. There's a bunch of people who were in those Disney Plus shows that were just mid. That come on, bring those back. Give them another chance. I'm sure they'd be amazing in the thing.
Yeah, and I think it all comes down to I have to on one side that I'm pointing at the the fact that you're breaking the glass and grabbing the emergency Robert Downey Jr. At the same time, without him saying it, and I would have had more respect for him if he said it. Which he's never going to bash his own movies. Yeah. But there could have been a delicate way of him saying it. But in a way, at least, I can look at this and I can say, they know there's a problem. Yep. So they're this is a move to try to make it better. Mm-hmm. So that's a plus. I'll give Feige that, because you look at another IP like Star Wars, which has just gotten absolutely bashed by their fan base over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And they've made no changes to try to course correct, to go okay, wow, this really isn't working. We need to course correct. This I see as a course correct. I see this as Kevin Feige standing up there and going, we didn't do a good job the last little while. Yeah. No faults to the actors, no faults to the characters, just whatever it was that they put out just wasn't landing with audiences after, the craziness of the first arc up to Infinity War and Endgame. So this is their attempt to try to get it back on course. And I think what it comes down to again is you've always had good actors. Even though I don't like what's her name that plays Captain Marvel. She is a good actress, right? The acting, the casting has always been decent. It's always been good. I really have never been super upset with anybody that they've cast in those positions. It's been the writing. Yeah. And the direction, right? Yeah, writing, directing, that's where I feel like it fell off. Because if you go back and look at a lot of the stuff that was done previously, you had some good directors that did good jobs that all fed into the same thing, that same story narrative with Thanos, and it really worked. And then they just started going off off the map as far as hey, we're just going to try all this stuff. And some of it worked out okay. Some of it obviously didn't. So I can at least look at this and say, hey, Kevin Feige, at least, without you coming out and admitting it, which I think that would have been an even better step, to just say, hey, you know what? We feel like we haven't met our potential. There could have been a delicate way to say it, but I mean, him bringing them back is saying a lot. Yeah.
It's saying a lot without saying a lot, right? So
exactly.
Any final thoughts on Deadpool and the MCU?
No, just go see it, and just sit back and enjoy, because it is a ride.
It's amazing. So thanks so much for listening. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and make sure to follow us wherever you found us, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.